Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting will take place in two parts. No, actually, that's right, it won't.
One part.
Wow, couldn't even get 10 seconds in. Tonight's meeting will start with our public hearings. We'll ask the applicants to give us name and address for the record, and then explain to the board why the relief requested should be granted. After the applicant is done, the board members will have an opportunity to ask questions, and then we will open it up to comments from the public. The public, I'll just note that due to the public health and safety concerns related to COVID-19, this meeting is being conducted remotely pursuant to Governor Cuomo's executive orders, including Executive Order 202.1, which suspended certain provisions of the New York State Open Meetings Law. This meeting is being video recorded and is being broadcast live on the Town of Penfield's website, www.penfield.org, and on the Town of Penfield's Government Access Channel 1303. The meeting will also later be transcribed. If you'd like to address the board on any public hearing matter, there will be specific public participation opportunities for each matter after the board responds to the applicant's presentation with its questions and answers. I will repeat this, much to the annoyance of my fellow board members, several times tonight, but you are able to participate by phone, calling 585-340-8771, and also electronically by submission at www.penfield.org. We like to say every meeting that we think the town does a good job of alerting citizens about the board agenda, so that citizens are fully informed of their right to comment on applications. And the town does that by sending postcards to people that live near the site of the application, by posting the agenda on its website, by having applicants put up signs on the property that indicate that the property is subject to an agenda review. Again, we appreciate everybody's comments. We welcome them. We think it helps us do our job. After the applicants are done, we will deliberate on the particular application, and then we'll move on to the next application. I think I covered everything, but if you'd be willing to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Okay, folks. Let's see. The first item at this work session is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. We've been distributed a draft of them. Everyone's reviewed them. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any further comment? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We do have on the agenda one tabled item. The applicant has requested that that be tabled again. So I will make a motion to table that pursuant to the request of the applicant.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
You also want to bring up the ones withdrawn?
Yes, thank you. Application, the new applications, number 4, the property address is 1517 Empire Boulevard. That application has been withdrawn. So leaving us 4 new applications on the agenda for tonight. Does anybody have any questions for clarity on, let's start with application number 1, 1200A Penfield Road. And I know Mike's going to recuse himself on that one.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, how about number 2, 1998 Empire Boulevard?
I have one question. Is
Sure.
there any action we have to take with regard to the clock? being a freestanding sign, in addition to approving it?
Well, the clock is going to comply with
Right.
the requirements for.
It's just, so you pointed it out because it's a fourth sign, basically?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions about 2?
I'm going to recuse myself from that one.
Right, okay. And how about number 3, Plank Road? Any questions for clarification there? 4's been withdrawn. Any questions on 5, Terrell Drive? No.
Actually, I do have a question on 1. The,
On which one?
number 1.
Okay.
The Penfield Road one. The
Yeah.
county did come back and they didn't have any issues with with those signs where they sat, correct, in the right of way? Is that what I read that as?
I just spoke to the applicant a little while ago, and he said he's been in conversations with the county.
Okay.
And according to him, they're okay with it.
Okay.
Obviously, we'd like to get something formal in writing.
So we should probably then, would that be conditioned on county approval or for any action
Well, let's
that
ask
happens
him about
tonight?
it. It
Okay.
could be that we table it or we take whatever action is appropriate, but it's a good question.
Okay.
Okay, no other questions for clarification? If not, let's move right into the public hearings. The work session will be closed and we'll move into the public hearings. First application, please.
Joseph Alaco, Ellison Apartments LLC, 2700 Elmwood Avenue, Suite A, Rochester, New York, 14618. Requests a special permit under Section 250-10.3-A of the code to allow greater freestanding signage than permitted under Section 250-10.12-C of the code, with less setback than required under Section 250-10.12-D of the code at 1200 Penfield Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Ellison Apartments LLC and is zoned MR, SBL number 123.19-1-26.11. This is application number 20Z-0031.
Okay. Applicant, if we could have your name and address and then proceed with your application, please.
Sure. Joseph Alaco. My office address is 2700 Elmwood Avenue in Rochester, 14618. The property address is 1 Shady Run Lane in Penfield.
Would you mind just go ahead and then presenting and telling us a little bit about what you're applying for?
Sure. So I purchased the property in August, and there was an insurance violation from the previous owner, which wasn't disclosed to me, and the insurance company wouldn't give it to me until we took over. We took over, and the insurance violation was that I did not meet the insurance requirement for emergency vehicle first responder identification signage. So at that point, I was informed that I had 30 days to obtain such signage, install it, or my insurance was getting it canceled. So I reached out to the town to find out what I needed to do. I was informed I needed to, come in front of the board, and there was no way that was possible within the given amount of time. We reached out to 4 other insurance companies to see if I could obtain new insurance that wouldn't give me this restriction or wouldn't require this for me, and they all required the same thing. The previous owner, they asked this of the previous owner, 12 months ago, and they ignored it. So that's why they came down pretty hard on me. So I found myself in a position where they sent cancellation notices to the bank, letting them know that if I didn't get this addressed, that I wouldn't have insurance. And to get an apartment complex that size insured is no easy task. There's a handful of companies that do it. And it's problematic because not just the sheer size of it, but there's 4 floors to a building. So, insurance companies on multifamily, there's very few people that do it. So it's very difficult to obtain insurance. And obviously I can't have no insurance. I can't afford to let that insurance cancel even for 5 minutes. So, I met the insurance adjuster and the supervisor for Western New York was kind enough to drive out and meet me there and showed me what they wanted, and so that's the signage that we did. It's a metal signage to their specifications, double-sided, reflective, a dark sign with light lettering.
Sure. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
that's the reason we did it.
Thank you. And so for the design, in terms of, when you say that you met the insurance requirements, was that, what kind of information was required? How big did it have to be? Things like that.
The size of that sign is the minimum they would let me put up. And what they wanted on the sign was the name of the property, the address, and the phone number. They didn't care what size the phone number, the address, or the name was. They just requested that it was clear, and they gave me specific size of the sign that they wanted. So that's what I did.
Okay. And they let you know that the sign out front off of Penfield Road was not adequate? Your building sign
Yes,
that basically
sir.
says Ellison Heights?
Yeah, that's correct. And their argument to me, and just so you know, this is not something I didn't just roll over and say, okay, I'll do it right away. I mean, I spent a lot of time and effort. I ended up even talking to the insurance company's attorney, and they ended up meeting me there, and they said, look, at certain times of day, at dusk, early morning, there was a few times a day, if there's an emergency vehicle traveling at speeds first responders travel, if you put one Shady Run Lane in your GPS, it doesn't take you there. So that's one problem, which I can't address. We went to 911. We contacted the people that manage, it's a coordination with Google Earth, and they said because it's a new property, it could take another year and a half before the address lines up the way it should. But if an emergency vehicle is traveling up the hill or down the hill to the vehicle or to the property for emergency, they can easily pass the entrance, and that's just not acceptable to the insurance company. They said I need emergency vehicle first responder identification signage. So that's what I did.
Yep. Thank you. In terms of location and placement, did you have, take into account sight lines and, blocking sidewalk views and things like that when you were placing them as to minimize?
I did. I met the insurance company there, and, they told me where it had to go. And so we did that to keep me in compliance with them and also minimize the impact to the neighborhood, to visibility, trying to make it as benign as possible and still keep me in compliance.
Sure. I think question-wise, that's everything I have right now.
All right, so before we open it up to other board members, I would just like to remind the public that they can comment on this by phoning 585-340-8771 or commenting through the website at penfield.org. Any other questions from the board? I would just point out that part of your application is the letter from the insurance company, which indicates exactly what their requirements are, and one of them is that the name, address, and phone number must be listed on the signage. They give a requirement that the sign must at least be by 4 feet by 3 feet in diameter, must be two-sided, and some other some other notes, but we do have a letter from the agent or the insurance company that's up there now. Good, thanks. May I ask, is there, do you have any intention to remove any of the current signage if these were to be granted?
Yeah, I do not, no.
All right, so why would that be?
Well, the only other sign that's there is at the main entrance, which is, clearly the identification sign, and it's, aesthetically looks nice. It's more of a, I'd like to say it's, your marketing sign, your sign that, would draw people to the property, which clearly the ones that we did for emergency identification doesn't do the same thing.
All right, that's kind of what I was getting at. In addition to, anticipating that your answer would be no, then the question was going to be why, but your position is that the signs you're asking for today serve a different purpose than the one that's there already.
Yes, sir, that's correct, yes.
Okay. Are you aware that we've had some emails submitted to the town before tonight, I think in opposition to this? I just want to make sure that you're aware that they're there, and if you want to respond to them, you can. You certainly don't have to.
I'd be happy to. If somebody could forward those to me, I believe one was sent to me. I wasn't aware that I could respond, but I'm happy to respond to them. And I also want to let the board know, if the insurance company ever changes restrictions and I don't need those signs, I'd be happy to take them down. I mean, they're not, it's not something I wanted to do. It doesn't help me from a marketing standpoint. I do agree with them that, they actually put me in a car and took me up the hill at what they consider emergency response speed. And unless it's at night when the place is all lit up, you could go by there pretty easy.
Okay.
So,
Given what you just volunteered, would you be willing to, by the way, is it a one-year policy?
This year, yes, sir, it is a one-year policy. It is.
So you just said if it's no longer a requirement, you would remove the signs. So I guess I'd suggest that if we do approve this, that we put in a condition that each year you should submit proof to the town that it's still an insurance requirement. I assume you'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, I would be willing to do that, but I would say to you that the signs do serve a purpose. There is 180 families that live there, and it is safer. So, when the insurance company first told me that, I really didn't see eye to eye with them until, I met them there and they drove me around and showed me. They had somebody come down from the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, met us there. Somebody from an ambulance company was supposed to come, but they didn't show. And I believe it was somebody from the fire department that's on the corner of 441 and East Avenue. So, they really didn't want me. They went there to convince me that they weren't trying to give me a hard time and it was the right thing to do. So, again, those signs were expensive, and I didn't do it just to appease them. Obviously, I can't go without insurance, but clearly it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, but I was just honestly following up on your statement that if the insurance didn't require them, you'd remove them.
Yeah, again, if the insurance company said to me, "Look, we made a mistake. You don't need to do that," I'd be happy to do that. But if I were the town board, and I had somebody willing to put those signs up that look nice, that are well done, that serve a purpose to help 180 people, I probably would leave them up.
Okay. I hear you. You're bringing it right back to me, and I appreciate that. All right, so let me just read you an email here. It's pretty short. It's an email submitted from Jean Barrick, president of Allen's Creek Corbett's Glen Preservation Group. She says she's writing to express opposition to the variance request. She also states that the current sign is fully adequate as it stands, and anything larger would be distracting to drivers, potentially obstruct the line of vision, and detract from the residential feel of the neighborhood. So that's one. Let me see if I can quickly pull up I think we have one other email. If we,
I think there's 3 total.
there are 3?
Yeah.
So the second one I'm reading is from Gretchen Debris. Expresses opposition to the request. Owner of adjacent property feels that there's already an abundance of signage on the property, and additional signage will result in an eyesore to the area and also devalue my property. I'm not finding the third one. If
I think
somebody,
the Parker one
Actually,
is a carbon copy.
There's only 2.
Oh, is there only 2 just
One's
labeled
a copy,
differently?
right.
Okay.
okay, so, you've given your presentation as to why you need this. I'm not telling you have to respond to those emails. I just wanted you to be aware that they're out there. And if you want to respond, feel free, but again, not making you.
No, I'd be happy to. I'm happy to do so. I'd like to also let the board know that the landscaping, there was issues with the landscaping there. It wasn't finished, it wasn't in compliance, and I redid it all. I brought it up to compliance. I re-sealed and striped the parking lot and put the proper handicap spots in place. So I've done everything that I could do to make the property aesthetically look its best, and to enhance the area.
And I'm sure we appreciate that. So when I'd asked you if you wanted to respond to these emails, I kind of meant now.
Oh, of course, yeah, I'm happy to. So,
Yeah.
So the first email, we, the sign company and myself, and also one of the people from the insurance company, because one of my arguments was, look, I want to make sure these are not a problem for people entering and leaving the property. So we ended up driving in and out of the property at morning traffic time and late afternoon traffic time in a pickup truck, a low car, and an SUV, just to make sure that those signs were not going to be a problem to people entering the property or leaving the property, and they weren't. I also want to point out that there's a drive lane to exit the property, its own drive lane to exit, a merge lane. So that clearly that helps, and that doesn't hurt anything. As far as a distraction, I don't feel the signs are a distraction at all. They're there now, and they are, again, I think completely benign to the area, unless you are in a police car or an ambulance or a fire truck, and you needed to find it, and those signs at night, you'll see them. They're reflective, and you can see them. I made a decision when we purchased the signs. It was a more inexpensive way to do it, and I chose the best quality that I could get, so they looked, pleasing aesthetically, both to my tenants and the neighbors of the property. I didn't want anything there that was, substandard or something that was not to the best quality that I could do. So we did that. So, I think that addresses those concerns. The other email was stating that they thought the signs would be an eyesore and that would hurt the property value. And I clearly think that's not the case. As you could just see from these photos, we've spent a lot of money in landscaping there that was way overdue. Again, those signs are very, very well done. They're the best quality signs I could buy and still stay in compliance with the insurance company. So that's what I did. So I do not feel they're an eyesore, and I definitely do not think they would ever hurt anybody's property value. I think the signs serve one purpose, and that's, to provide the best quality safety I can for the people that are there so that first responders don't have a problem. And the last thing we want, and I'll share this last thought with you, is that the person that met us there from the fire department said to me, you know, Joe, seconds matter. And if we end up going up the street and have to turn around and come back, you know, a fire can go from one apartment to 4 in a matter of seconds. He said, so the last thing you need is that problem. And, you know, he said you could lose people. Because I'll be honest, I put up a pretty good fight about this when the insurance company first came at me.
And how many people approximately live in the apartments now?
So, sir, there's 180 units there right now.
Yeah.
We currently, I believe there's 4 vacant apartments right now.
Well, okay.
So, you know, there's a lot of families there.
Okay. Any other board questions? All right, I'm checking the call-in. I don't see anybody on the phone, nor do I see any electronic submissions. So, there's nobody in the audience here that cares to speak about this. Okay, we'll close the public hearing and proceed with the review of the application. Starting with the seeker.
Okay, let's see, this, for seeker, this is a unlisted action. So I'll move that neg deck on this one.
Okay, for seeker, we have Andres making a motion to declare it an unlisted action and then additionally to find a negative declaration. We have a second from...
Second.
We have 2 seconds. Any further discussion on the seeker? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, now the merits of the application?
Yeah, so for this application, it really sounds like the property owner really went to an effort to try to find some other means to meet the insurance company's needs. And when you look at some of the things that we have to look at, whether it's, is it a hazard to the roadway, sightline, things like that? Is it in harmony? Is it an eyesore? Is it things like that that come out? It really sounds like they went to the efforts to, one, as he described, they drove around, they found different vehicles at different heights. There's, for sightline and things like that, there wasn't an issue for those kind of pieces. He picked the smallest possible sign that was allowed, that his insurance company would allow. I think he went to some extents also by reaching out to other companies and saying, could you provide coverage for this property? And it sounds like all of them are requiring this, which I would probably just as a side note say we'll probably see more of these type come up there as other complexes either come to be due for new insurance or other things like that. So I could see that down the road, and maybe that's something we want to take into consideration for our whole directional sign piece as we look into signage for the town. But with all that, it sounded like he did some fairly strong due diligence and trying to do this without really any other options. And so with that, I'm going to make a motion to approve these 2 signs.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, and we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I ask, are we still imposing that condition that they be removed if they're no longer needed, or no?
I didn't make that part of the motion, Andres didn't either, but I guess I'd ask you as a matter of administration just to kind of follow up with it, that's all.
Yes.
That is a condition?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good one.
You can put it in the resolution, he's not going to oppose it. We can consider the motion so amended. Everybody okay with that?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Application number 2, please.
Jeffrey Ashline, Musina Associates Architects, PC, 70 Linden Oaks, Suite 110, Rochester, New York, 14625. On behalf of Canandaigua National Bank, requests a special permit under Section 250-10.3-A of the code to allow greater building-mounted signage than permitted under Section 250-10.13-C of the code, with greater graphics, trademarks, or logos than permitted under Section 250-10.11-E of the code at 1998 Empire Boulevard. The property is currently or formerly owned by Empire Park Management, LLC, and is zoned limited business. SBL number 093.02-1-12.002. Application number 20Z-0032.
Okay, Jeff, anytime you're ready.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Good evening. Jeff Ashline with Mosine Associates Architects. We are before you this evening looking to provide 2 additional, we call them oval signs, to the tower portion of the existing property at 1998 Empire Boulevard, Canandaigua National Bank. We're looking for hopefully that these signs will provide more visibility and exposure, help identify the branch to their existing Penfield customers and also out-of-town customers as well. We've heard from a number of customers through the bank that sometimes they have a hard time finding the property just because of the speed of Empire Boulevard, sometimes the congestion at rush hour times, the fact that the road is a little bit far from the property. Again, all factors that other businesses on the strip have noticed over time. I believe you received some additional information from us yesterday, noting other business locations that have multiple signs. And again, I'm sure they were granted for very similar reasons. And again, we're just looking for some additional help in visibility and exposure. The signs, although, yes, we're asking for 2 signs, but this is kind of a small part to an overall facade improvement. We're looking to paint the existing building at the bank's cost. We're looking to provide a new painted roof for a little bit more exposure as well and visibility. We are looking to remove the kind of dated clocks that are on the 3 sides currently on the tower and provide a new ground clock, which is kind of symbolic of CMB throughout Monroe and Ontario County, kind of a tasteful clock as a gift to the community. So it's kind of why we're here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, before you start, I just wanted to remind the public that if they have any comments on this, they can make them by calling 340-8771 or making them through the website at penfield.org. Thanks. Go ahead, Mike.
Jeff, do you know what color the building's going to be painted?
Yes, and I believe, is it on that picture that's up right now to the right? I'm sorry, myself is covering the right side. You bear with me for a moment. I will get that for you. It's a kind of we call it elephant ear gray. It's not as dark as a charcoal gray, but it's kind of a nice color that we've used on a couple of other properties that Canandaigua National Bank owns.
Okay.
And there's also a cream as well.
Is that where the sign's going to be, the cream tower? Is the tower going to be cream or?
Yeah, so if you look on the video, the image that's up on the screen right now in the upper left,
Okay,
the lower left shows the existing today.
right.
The upper left, yeah, right there, shows the elephant ear gray and it's called Incredible White. That's the white portion. And then the red oval, or the CNB brick color oval, is what's proposed in the gray field.
Can you tell me what's the relationship between the new signs that you're proposing and the size of the clocks that are on there now?
They are, while the oval is slightly wider than the square clock faces that are there, I believe the height of the oval is approximately the same height as the clock, if not a little bit lower.
So would you say maybe
just because
slightly larger?
I don't think it's larger in height. I just think it's a little bit wider in width. And just so we're aware for reference, on the west side of the structure right now is the CMB oval and the one line, we call it one line text. You can kind of see it in the middle pictures that you're looking at. That oval is approximately 2.5 square feet smaller than what we're proposing for the tower. So if you're out at the property and you look at the oval on the side of the building, the new oval that we're proposing is only slightly larger than that. And the reason we did that is because up in the tower, if you do something that's too small, it kind of gets lost because it's so far back, and the bottom middle picture is kind of telling right there. A lot of people that were stopped at Brand Point Drive and Empire, that tree really, if you're moving, you don't even see the tower. So we wanted to make the oval large enough, but also not gaudy at the same time. So we think it kind of fits. It goes with the new roof that we're proposing, and in that gray and white, when we paint the building, I think it's just going to make the whole thing kind of pop and look nice.
All right, which leads me to my next question. If you're traveling from the south, that tree does block the towers. So why do you need a logo on there, on that face?
Well, I know the landlord, and again, this isn't my place, but the landlord, when we met out there a while back to talk about some of the facade improvements that we were looking to do, and we're going to be redoing the asphalt in the parking lot, the issue of the tree came up. And that's something that I think he's going to look into. Again, I know how towns are, and pretty much everybody is these days about tree removal, but that was a topic that he had brought up, and I said, I don't really know the answer to that, if what's allowed, what's not allowed, it's your property. But again, there was talk about the removal of that one tree.
Okay, so that's a possibility.
Not to interrupt
Yeah,
you,
so then again-
maybe we could think of keeping the tree trimmed at a height that it won't impede the vision and defeat the purpose of the request. It's a nice tree, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yep. No, you're correct, totally correct.
All right, and obviously you got a picture there. It's going to be their red color with the white lettering on the logos.
That's correct.
And how are they going to be?
It's a brand standard.
And would you describe illumination, if any?
Yeah, it's an internally lit LED. They call that the push through these days. So it's really an aluminum cabinet with an acrylic that sticks out about a ½ inch proud of the aluminum, the red aluminum, and it just gives a nice glow.
Okay.
It's not backlit or halo lit. It's just internally illuminated.
All right, and the clock you're putting up in the corner, the front corner,
Yes.
does that have any lettering on it?
Yes, and I believe Andy probably shared with you a couple of other locations. Again, this is a standard clock that CMB has been buying for, I don't know, many, many years. It's the same company that made that's our Henrietta location. Mm-hmm. And you can see if you look right at the center of the dial, but you gotta look real good. There's a gold CMB oval in there. You can't even notice it when you're driving by. You have to kind of look at it when you're up close. The same company that made the clock at the 441 5 Mile Line intersection that the town owns,
Yeah.
that's the same manufacturer that we use here, and it's very similar, but a little bit different at the same time. So the clock that you see in front of you now is the same one that we proposed for the corner of our site.
Yeah, okay. I lost my last question. And just go over the total square footage of the signs, the building mounted, including these two logo signs?
Yeah, so the new proposed signs are, the oval itself is about 24.5 square feet. It's length 6 foot wide by about 4 feet 1 inch tall. So the two together are 49 square feet. When you add that to the existing signage that's there, it's about 182.5 square feet. Obviously, with the 72-foot length of the facade, we're allowed 144 square feet. So yes, we are over the allowable square footage for the signs. But again, if we make the sign, I can make the signs a little bit smaller on the tower if that would help. But again, it comes a point where making them too small kind of negates the whole purpose of having them there. So it's that balance we're looking for.
Sure. And can I ask how much smaller could they be? I mean,
Yeah, so I did the calculations earlier. So to take the sign that you see on the right-hand images,
yeah,
so you see the red sign on the white tower. To bring those down to the same size as the oval that's already on the building,
yeah.
it's about 2.5 square feet. So again, making it a little bit narrower and a little bit less tall.
And that would still work for the company?
I think that would achieve that. I think that would achieve the bank's goal.
Okay.
If I took a couple square feet off of that.
You may have addressed this a little bit already, but I wanted to make sure that it was in response to the requirement that we have, and that's that these signs are needed to adequately identify the business.
We definitely think they are. Again, we're making a number of facade improvements, and CNB has been in the community a long time. We're down the road at the other end of town in Webster. As you know, we're at 441 in Penfield, and the bank's a quality. They're our favorite client. I'll just say that first off, but they don't skimp out, and they want to do what's right, and they want to, again, they're taking the landlord's building and taking the onus to paint and improve the roof of the building and put at least last I looked, it was about a $35,000 clock on the property and pay for part of the asphalt improvement. So again, we're looking to do an overhaul here for the benefit of the bank, yes, but also for their customers, and I think it'll look nice to the town as well.
Okay, that's all I have.
Go ahead, Marie.
Well, I don't really have a question, but I do want to comment because I am very familiar with Grant Point Road and know that, there have been about 2 or 3 restaurants now that have gone out of business in that plaza. I think the plaza really is in need of a facelift, so I'm very glad to see these improvements because I think not only is CNB going to benefit, but all the tenants in that plaza will. I actually like the ovals in the tower at that size because I think it's in better proportion to the existing white space around it. And I'm not someone who loves a lot of signage, but I do like the proportions on that.
Anything else?
No, I think I would agree with Marie too on the scale that doesn't look out of proportion.
I don't know how much closer it brings into, but a couple of things that I would just like to point out, because honestly, we do get frequent applications for signage on Empire Boulevard, and we all know that what the speed limit is and what people really drive there. But if this is granted, you're gonna have 3 building-mounted signs, and you're only allowed 1 per code. My comment in that regard would be that if we didn't have the signs on the tower, I don't think it would look very good. I think just the facade, so, that makes, to me, anyway, this property and this application a little bit unique and perhaps different from other applications in the area or future applications. That's one. The other thing is, our staff here at Penfield, very efficient, very knowledgeable. They're calling that little clock on the corner a sign because it has a little CNB in the center of the clock where Mickey Mouse is on Mickey Mouse watches. But to me, that's not really the typical traditional freestanding sign. In other instances on Empire Boulevard, we've sort of asked applicants if they're willing to trade off a building-mounted sign for a freestanding. I wouldn't be in favor of doing that sort of thing here because the clock that you're proposing, to me, although it fits the definition arguably of being a sign. No offense, Andy, it's a clock. It's not so much a sign. Anyway, that's just my comment. Any other discussion? All right, I don't see anybody from the public calling in or sending in an electronic comment. So we will close the application and proceed to consideration, starting with seeker.
Yes. I'm going to move that this is an unlisted action under seeker and issue a negative declaration.
Second.
No adverse impacts.
Okay, so on seeker, we have a motion to declare it an unlisted action and additionally to declare a negative declaration, and we have a second. Any further comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no opposition? Let's proceed to the merits.
On the merits, I'm going to move to approve the application in its entirety. I agree with you with regard to the freestanding clock. Technically, it could be considered a sign, but I got to tell you, I drove by the one on 441, and I couldn't see any CMB on there.
Yeah.
Just, I didn't stay and get up close, but so.
If you look real close, you can see M&T.
So, it doesn't have the impact of a freestanding sign and then two building-mounted signs. The other thing, and we have restricted mostly two building-mounted signs when somebody's given up a freestanding sign. But this one, although a logo is technically a sign, I mean, it doesn't have the same visual impact as a worded sign. The thing I thought of first was the Cornerstone Restaurant, which is no longer there on 250.
Yeah.
We gave them both sides of that tower, but they had actually letters on there and had no freestanding. So I think that makes this different, and I think the logos look good, and I think the whole project looks good.
Great. So, did you make a motion?
I did to approve.
Did we get a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion to approve the application and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you. Good application. Good work.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Number 3, please.
Joseph Scafaro, 1623 Plank Road, Webster, New York, 14580. Requests area variances under section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a second storage building, whereas a maximum of one storage building is allowed under section 250-5.1-D4 of the code, with less setback than required under section 250-5.1-F12B of the code, and greater area than allowed under section 250-2.2 of the code at 1623 Plank Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Joseph and Paula Scafaro and is zoned RA-2, SBL number 096.03-1-69.1, application number 20Z-0033.
Okay, applicant, please give us your name and address and then proceed with your application presentation.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Joe Scafaro, 1623 Plank Road is where the application has been pulled for. We propose to build a storage facility, 36 by 40 pole barn style with steel roof and siding, 2 overhead doors and 1 man entry door. It'll be located just behind 1404 Salt Road. We requested a 15-foot setback from there and from their property line, and then a 10-foot setback from 1402 Salt Road, which is my actual residence. It's mainly for storage, cold storage, for stuff that we've accumulated over the years. We last year had a building we sold down on Dean Parkway, so we've lost a lot of storage, and kind of late doing this, but we're in need of some storage for RVs and boats and some cars. We just don't want them spread all over the yard. So We're looking to tidy things up a little bit.
Thanks for presenting. Can you tell me how large your property is? I didn't see the acreage on the application.
The application property is 15.001 acres.
Okay. Tell me about the way, the building, how you would like it to look.
It's going to be, we decided on a solid brown roof, brown walls, brown doors. This way it'll be less noticeable for people to see. They're putting a picture up right now of where the 2 overhead doors will be, and then the man door. We just think of one solid color would be less noticeable from Plank Road. I don't really think you'll see it at all from Salt Road because of the houses that'll block it. My house and my neighbor's house at 1404. Brown trim, brown gutters, just going to be solid brown all the way around.
And then I noticed you also have a fairly large storage facility there as well. Now, tell me again why you need both of them?
Are you talking about on the 1623 Plank Road?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an older barn. There's only a center section that's usable for vehicles. There's a lower section, a small garage that a vehicle can not really fit into, and then there's lofts on each side of the center section of the barn. It's just not really feasible for what we have. Nothing we have will fit in there.
You had mentioned that this would take care of clutter outside, but when I was at your property, I honestly didn't see anything outside. It was actually very tidy.
Well, yeah, but we'd like to keep the motorhome inside. I don't know if you're familiar with RVs. They're very susceptible to leaking if you don't have them covered. I've tried winter covers last year after we sold our building on Dean Parkway. I kept it inside the last 5 years for the winter in that building on Dean Parkway in Ontario. We sold that in February. I bought a winter cover. It lasted about a month and it shredded. So I'd like to keep it out of the harsh winter.
Where is it now?
It's currently on the side of my house, on the garage, on 1402 Salt Road.
Okay.
On the side of the garage.
And you don't own, so this property, this building would be right up against 1404?
15-foot setback, yeah. And we originally we're going to go 50 feet from there, but I had some people come out that would do the site work, and they said that if I went 50 feet, I would need significant fill because the way the land drops off. So I then contacted and amended my application with Andy there and shortened it up to 15 feet, so I don't have to bring any fill in.
Have you contacted your neighbors about this project?
No, I spoke to Rick Trottier across the street. He really didn't seem worried about it.
Well, I mean, let me ask you, so what concerns me is that, that these are substantial variances and, given the fact that you have 15 acres, is there somewhere else that this could go? So that you're not backing up right into a neighbor's line of sight?
Well, if you look at the overview right now, you'll see a lot of wet area in the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Really couldn't go there, and then plus my mom leases that out to Jim Wilbert. And then we have between 1402 and 1623 Plank Road on Salt Road side, there is what we've been calling a lot, and we're kind of reserving that to maybe someday build a house there for my daughter. So, and really, I mean, I could put it further way out back in the field, but then it'll be harder to get to in the wintertime.
Yeah, it's just, again, I'm sort of looking at this going, well, if I had that barn right up next to my lot line, that would be concerning to me. So.
Have they expressed any concerns since you notified them, or?
I don't know if we've received anything, but Andy, could you tell me? No. Would it be worth maybe going to talk to them first? It'd be nice to, talk to them first before having a problem.
Sure.
We could table this application.
Were they notified though, or?
The postcard, right?
Right, the postcard. It's just part of being, I think, a good neighbor.
Well, we're on good terms with our neighbor. They didn't say anything. I mean, we don't speak regularly, but if they didn't respond to the card,
No.
there must not be much of a concern.
You have a point. I just think sometimes it's better to, just try to get your ducks in order and make sure there's no hard feelings and keep the line of communication open. Because this will impact them.
Marie, can I ask you, I just want to make sure, I'm looking at that and I'm looking at the survey on my computer here. I want to make sure we have the aerial photo, but it's not, I want to make sure I know on that, where's it going? That's good, whoever's cursor that is. And keep moving it to the left of the screen until you hit the structure. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Boom, right there. Is that the neighbor we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be the neighbor, the property, if you will, that would be impacted by your variance request. And if that's a neighbor you are on good terms with, that received a postcard presumably, and we haven't heard from. I just wanted to clarify that. I think Marie makes a good point that it would, ideally, an applicant comes in and says, I've spoken with my affected neighbors and they're okay with this. Sometimes the affected neighbors come in and say they're opposed to it. We've heard nothing from this person, and
But Dan, I'll add that, if the neighbor's watching, he should call 340-8771
Yes,
or go
thank you for
online at
reminding that.
penfield.org.
I appreciate that. That is true.
I do know when they bought that property, we were already living at our house at 1402, and they proposed, and I think they still do, they run a business out of there. They sell flower seeds. We had no problem with it back then.
Yeah, well, that's good. Can you also use your cursor to show where your mobile home is now or around?
It's right on the side of the garage here on 1402.
Wish you can see it in the back.
Yeah, right there where he's running the cursor back, or somebody is.
Yeah, right there.
Wiggle it again. I'm not seeing the
Yeah, I'm not seeing
cursor.
it.
Losing it.
Just north of that house at 1402.
And then we
Okay.
just-
Oh, I
we
see it
just
now.
bought- We just bought a boat now, which is parked on the other side of my barn with the blue shed, with the blue roof. And then we have a couple of cars that we'd like to store. I have a classic car, my wife's car for the winter. We lost our storage at my mom's house in her garage because she now flies to Florida back and forth in the winter and leaves her car there, so that we lost a storage spot there for one of our cars. So that's the reason for building such a big barn.
Are you using this barn for any commercial purposes?
No, it's just gonna be cold storage, just to keep the cars out of the weather, and the RV, and both.
But then you're not having any kind of driveway to the barn?
No driveway, I'll just access it from my backyard.
Okay.
No electric, no concrete floor, just stone, just crushed stone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm feeling like, there is a spot for this next to the other structure where you wouldn't need any variance. You wouldn't
Well, we
need,
don't wanna do that because my mother's gonna sell the house someday. And when that happens, we're gonna subdivide the property to the appropriate acres with the barns that are there now, and I would gain control of the rest of the property.
okay. I don't have any more questions.
Okay, so far I don't have any call-ins or electronic, so we'll open it up to any other questions from the board?
I will make the one comment that if it's going to be subdivided at some point, it's going to be difficult to subdivide with just a secondary structure on there. If it's just a barn on one parcel that's left.
The subdivision probably won't happen for many years. Chances are my mom's gonna sell the property, her house, with, I think that we were looking at doing that last year. She was gonna subdivide and sell the property, and I believe we had discussions with the town, we would need just under 4 acres to sell the house with the existing barn that's there now, and then I would gain the remainder of the land. And then we'll worry about a house on Salt Road when that time comes.
Could you consider any smaller size barn? How did you arrive at this time? How did you arrive at this?
I have a computer program that I sent you with a picture of that, and I'm able to place objects into a structure, and with the motorhome backing straight in, and the two cars in the boat, everything fit in there just right without squeezing things in. Plus, we have a tractor too that I store in the barn on Salt Road currently in the wintertime. It's outside during the summer months behind my barn. But I would probably, once my mom sold that property, I would probably have to store the tractor in this facility as well.
Okay.
Andy, is that your cursor that we've been seeing? Would you move the cursor, yeah, right there, come to the property line a little bit, come east, I guess. Well, no, south then.
You're further east, yeah.
Yeah, why can't you put it right above where his cursor is? Other than it's a little farther than you want it to be.
Again, that would be out by the road, and it's a possibility my daughter may want to build a house there someday.
Yeah, but that's a hypothetical. You're not really sure. That's way in the future, right?
Well, I'd like to leave it vacant just in case she does, or my son, he may move back home from Florida. That was a dream of my father's, to have one of our children build a house, or both of them, on the property someday, and I'd like to keep that option open. My father's no longer with us, but I want to keep that possibility open.
Yeah, it's understandable. So,
And being back where I want to put it, the land drops off there. It's just beyond where I want to put it. It's typically wet. You'll see a little pond there that
Yeah.
holds water most of the year. Then we have the creek. And then to the east, you have those wet spots that are predominantly wet throughout the winter and spring. And now we get some rain, they'll fill up quick.
yeah.
Dan, I might point out, we just have one that's still pending, that table motion, where a property was subdivided and there's no principal residence, and you've
That's
got an
kinda where I was-
accessory structure. So you are gonna have a problem when you subdivide that in any manner, which removes the residence.
When I gain control of the property, it will all blend with 1402. I will have it all with one property. I won't have two. That's what I'm thinking of I'll do.
I'm not sure I understand.
So he would cut off the top and add it to his other lot.
I would make all the property, once we took off the just under 4 acres for 1623 Plank Road and sold that, which could be 20 years from now. My mother's 74. I don't know how much longer she wants to stay there by herself.
Yeah,
I would take the remainder of the 1623 property and make it part of 1402. If that makes sense.
which is where?
1402's
That's
right
that one.
there.
That's 1402, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Again, we were working with an engineer last year. My mother had thoughts of selling the house, and we went through all the motions with the town a little bit, and they said we needed just under 4 acres with the current barn and attached garage, or we could tear down the barn and sell it with 2. So, we have a couple of options there on what to do in the future.
Could you repeat that, please? I'm sorry. The last sentence.
If we were to subdivide 1623 Plank Road off the majority of the farmland and sell it, we would, according to the town, we would have to sell it with just under 4 acres because of the size of the barn that's there now. Or they told us we could tear down that barn and sell it with 2 acres. So I don't know which way I would lean yet in regards to that when that time happens.
Would you ever tear down that barn and then just keep the pole barn that you're proposing?
The only way I would tear that barn down is if something happened to my mother and we had to sell that property.
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Any other questions from the board?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was, but if you could,
Who is Pete?
if you could identify your,
Pete.
oh, it's Pete. Jeez.
I'm
know,
still
didn't
here.
I almost said ma'am if you could identify
Yeah, I
yourself.
thought the same thing.
You're probably eating your dinner and talking with your mouth full, Pete, but go ahead.
So I just have a question for Andy about when Marie was talking about the neighbors and whether or not, I mean, obviously they received the card, but I'm wondering where was the sign placed, the town sign?
You know, I can answer that. That was placed on 1623. And to me, that makes a difference.
You mean like over by near where the driveway goes in?
Yes,
there,
it's
off
on,
of
right on the
Salt Road?
corner. It's right on the corner.
Oh, yeah, okay, on Plank Road, yeah. So that's just, you know, they might not have appreciated where the barn was going to be placed. So that's just, I was just curious about where the sign was. So, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or thoughts? I don't recall ever specifically doing this, but if it's a significant enough concern of yours that we reach out to the neighbor ourselves, these are significant variances, I would certainly support that. It's totally up to you, and I understand the applicant wants a decision as quickly as possible, but he also, I'm sure, wants to maintain good relationships with his neighbors, and so I guess other than the passage of a month, what's the harm in doing that? I would ask rhetorically. So any other comments from the board? All right, once again, I have nobody on the phone calling in, nor do I have any electronic submissions, so we'll close the public hearing. And
You want me to approach the neighbors, or are you going to?
Well, I think it's fine if you approach them, and usually what people have done is send an email to Andy at the town, or they've been on a call, but they've acknowledged in some way that they understand what's being proposed and they are okay with it.
yeah, and the location is
And the
gonna be key,
location,
of course.
and I do take to Peter's point, you know, that depending upon, you know, the card, it says 1623, the sign was right at the corner. I'm just not sure that everyone is really well informed. And I just want them to be well informed.
Okay. So
And
you
it-
want a letter from them, or you want them to call you? How do you want to handle it?
Honestly, it could be an email, it could be a letter, it could be a call. I think, Andy, right? It's
fine.
Call the
Anyway.
town. It doesn't have to be a lot of work, you know, but just something that says they are understanding.
Yeah, we've seen the plans, and we know what he's asking, and we're okay with it.
Okay. Give them
Really
phone number?
appreciate it, and I understand it's a month, but it's just a month.
All right,
We'll
so,
lose a month of weather.
well,
Well, you could lose that any day now.
all right, so Pete, it looks like we're gonna have a motion to table so we can defer on the seeker. Is that okay, Pete?
Yeah, I would defer on the seeker until you're ready to make a substantive determination on the merits.
All
How will
right,
this work out now? We'll get with them, you know, they'll give their opinion, and we'll do this again next month?
not in, if we have an email or some kind of indication from them that they're okay with it, we will address it when we begin the meeting at 6:30, and there won't be any need for any comment from anybody else. Andy will
Okay.
say, we got a letter, we'll take a vote. You'll be done at 6:32.
Thank you.
And Andy can walk you
You're
through the
welcome.
process.
Yep. Okay, Marie, go ahead then and
All right.
make your motion to table for that purpose.
So I'll make a motion to table pending the applicant's contacting his neighbors who might be affected for further clarification and understanding.
I'll second.
What, we have a motion to table for that reason and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
No opposed. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's see, where are we now?
Number 5, last one.
Number 4's been withdrawn, so yes, number 5, Terrell Drive. If we could have that read, please, Andy?
Okay. Catherine Rowe, 96 Terrell Drive, Webster, New York, 14580, requests an area variance under section 250-14.3 of the code, and approval for an alteration of a non-conforming structure under section 250-7.13 of the code to allow the construction of a front porch with less setback than required under section 250-5.1-F1 of the code at 96 Terrell Drive. The property is currently or formerly owned by Catherine Rowe and is zoned R-1-20, SBL number 093.11-1-25, application number 20Z-0035.
Okay, applicant can go ahead and identify herself or himself.
Okay.
And name and address, and then go ahead and, or if it's going to be more than one, give both names and addresses and go ahead and proceed.
Okay. All right, I'm Joseph Rowe, 504 Granger Circle in Webster. I'm speaking for my daughter here, Catherine, the applicant at 96 Terrell Drive in Penfield. With your permission, we would like to rebuild the porch on the front of the house. The problem is that the setback from the road to the porch is less than the 50 feet, somewhere around 46 feet, I believe. And so we've been requested to have a variance before we can start construction. So the new construction, it's actually, I don't know, you've seen the pictures. There's brick and wood where the porch is, and we'll be replacing that with a wooden structure, which is actually about a foot closer to the house than what's there right now. So whatever the setback was there, 46 feet, it'll become 47 feet. So it'll be a little bit better. This is what's there right now, and it's kind of falling apart. Also, it's 10 inches from the concrete up to the front step, which is difficult. And what we're replacing it with, there's another picture of that. Yeah, that right there. The one on the left is what's there right now. The one on the right is the new porch that I'm planning on building or would like to build. And the yellow on the right is the old steps there. That'll be removed. I just put it there to show the size. So that's what we're requesting.
Okay, before we open it up to the board, I'd like to remind members of the public that they can comment on this application at the appropriate time by calling 340-8771 or sending in questions or comments through the website penfield.org. Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
Yes, sir, good evening. I just have a few questions. It would be a correct statement to say that you're in part installing this new porch to get the property more in compliance with the current code. Is that correct?
Well, it will be a little bit better because we'll be reducing the setback, which was 46. We'll be changing it to maybe 47. But the main purpose for this is that the old porch there is falling apart, and we want to improve it.
So it's gonna look better?
Yes, it will definitely look better.
And
the concrete has been there since 1947.
It seems as though the current condition is kind of dangerous, correct?
Oh, I agree. She purchased the house in October of last year, and so we're just now we put a new deck on the back of the house, and now I'm starting to work on the front.
So this is going to make it safer for visitors and for your daughter and anybody, correct?
Yes.
And what are you going to construct it out of? Is it going to be pressure?
It's pressure treated 2x6s and 2x4s.
And is it going to be stained?
Yes.
So it's going to blend in and match the current colors of the house, and it's going to be aesthetically pleasing and all those good things?
Absolutely.
Definitely, yes.
I have no further questions.
I have a question, Dan.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mostly on the dimensions. I'm looking at the survey map, and unless I'm reading this wrong, it looks like the corner of the structure itself, the house, is 46.8 feet from the right-of-way, but you're coming out, and it shows an overhead porch I think that's what OP means.
Yeah.
Which is already into that 46.8 feet. So you're gonna need considerably
That's
more
correct.
than 47 feet, a 3-foot variance. So how,
Again, this was all grandfathered in. The house was built in 1947, before the 50-foot setback was implied or created.
right, but you're adding to it, and I'm just saying, from the edge of the porch to the right-of-way, you're gonna have to tell us what that is, so we get, so we're voting on the correct variance. It's not 47 feet.
We're not adding to anything. The overhead porch is already there. Okay, we're actually, in fact, the steps go farther out beyond the overhead porch, and we're actually cutting it back by a foot.
Yeah, Andy, can you,
Yeah, that
you know
doesn't
what
make-
question Mike is answering? Can you
Yeah.
use your cursor to show what dimension we're looking for?
Yeah,
Approximately.
So the new porch is going to be going
Oh.
here in place of the existing porch.
Yep,
And when it's all said and done, what they're proposing, the setback from the property line to the front of the new porch is going to be 40.1 feet,
okay, and it's supposed to be per code,
50 feet,
right, so the variance requested is more like 9 something or other.
9.9 feet.
Yeah, well, like I said, something or other. Okay.
Okay,
Is that good, Mike?
sounds good to me.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Are you doing this yourself, sir?
Yes.
Wow, man, I hope my daughters aren't watching this. Hey, got a nice dad. Okay, no further questions? We'll consider the, well, hold on, I don't have any call-ins or electronic submissions. So public hearing will be closed and we'll proceed with the application consideration. Starting with
Want me to start with
seeker.
seeker?
Yes, please.
All right, I would make a motion to declare this a type 2 action requiring no further review.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion by Matt to, under seeker to declare it a type 2, and a second by Mike. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, merits of the application, Matt?
Yeah, I would move to approve the continuation of the pre-existing non-conforming use. It is a reduction of the non-conforming use, so it would bring the property into greater compliance with the current code, and it is going to minimize the detrimental effect of the non-conforming use to the adjoining conforming properties. So I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion to approve based upon what Matt said, and we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think that was our last application, so there's no other business. We will adjourn until our next meeting, which is currently scheduled for November 19th, 2020. Thank you all very much. Good meeting.
Thank you.
Geez, my daughter bought a house.
you were out there
So if I
making
put
a
a couple
force.
light fixtures in,